Greetings, YouTube. You can tell that I'm really excited about the Beasts and Burdens update for Darkest Dungeon 2 because this is the second video that I'm making during the daylight hours. Weird, I know. But anyways, I wanted to talk a bit more about what I think is the most transformative aspect. It's not actually the beasts. You know, there's a variety of new animals, the creature dens are cool, but the hero paths are the new element that I think is most transformative and most interesting to talk about. So first and foremost, what are hero paths? When you arrive at the crossroads, which is the beginning of the game, you are presented with the 9 heroes, one of each. And each of them has quirks. We already knew about that. They're positive and negative quirks. Someone might be speedier than normal, but also might have a bum leg and more easily pushed around. However, in addition to that now, there are paths, which are these kind of like historical knowledge or information that the characters come into the game with. So on the screen now, along the bottom, you'll see the first 3, which are Wanderer, which is your baseline. Any of the characters can be a Wanderer, an Apprentice, or a Master, the 3 that you see now. A Wanderer comes in bog standard. We'll still have quirks, but nothing else. Apprentices will come in with 1 skill already mastered, and I think it is a random skill. It might be specific to the class, but I think it's just one of the skills will always be random. And then a Master will have all of their skills upgraded. I have yet to see a Master in my own gameplay. Thank you to a member of the Red Hook Darkest Dungeon Discord for giving me that screenshot. But they're all pretty cool, and I love that they come with a quote. So the Wanderer is, to seek is to find. The Apprentices, I search for purpose in the withering dark. And a Master is, mastery is life's great journey. So now we can kind of move through the various classes. So first of all, we have the Grave Robber. And each of the classes is going to have 2 class-specific paths that are only accessible to that class and that transform the way that they play. So the first is we have the Nightsworn, the Shadows, my favorite cloak. Comes with lower HP, more damage in stealth, and more damage from lunge and pirouette. This is an interesting one. This is a trope that we'll see repeated a lot of times, which is damage goes up, survivability goes down. The other one is Deadeye, and Deadeye, I always was rather good at darts, wasn't I? And this is a ranged specialization where you get more range damage, less melee damage, more ranged crit, and you get pushed around a little more easily, less move resist. As for the Hellion, again, 2 paths. First is Ravager. I am no coward, come make your end. Increased hit points, if in rank 1, increased damage, less likely to bleed, and turn start 25% of the time you will take a bleed. So this is kind of like the tank spec for Hellions, and it is interesting that it comes with a bleed. I can actually see this synergizing with the Runaway and using Cauterize to fix up those bleeds. 3-point bleed isn't a huge deal. Could be bad in the wrong moments. And then you have the Berserker path, let it bleed, and I will never try to Accelerate, whatever it is. And this one, we're seeing a decrease in HP, coming with an increase in death blow resist, an increase in bleed chance, and bleed skills increase crit by 10%. I think this one is interesting because it comes with a Death's Door resist, which, if you recall, one of the facets of the Berserker, the Hellion, in general, is that as their hit points get lower, they do more damage. So this is going to be a offensively minded Hellion. The Highwayman comes with Sharpshooter, I Never Miss, which is increased range skill, decreased melee, plus speed, and then Grapeshot Blast Empowers, which I think this is an interesting one. So basically this is your ranged specialist. And most of our damage dealers that are already pretty glassy, luckily we aren't seeing them become more glass cannons, although there's some exceptions to that. But this is kind of an interesting one. I could see you leading with Grapeshot. Doesn't sound particularly good, but you know, anything that buffs Grapeshot isn't bad. And then we have Rogue. Up close and personal, that's how the job gets done. This one I think is fascinating. So rank 1 plus 50% damage, 3 and 4 minus 50% damage, and point blank shot gives riposte. So with the rogue gameplay, I see you starting out with point blank shot, getting a huge deletion on the first enemy. You get that riposte up, and then you kind of play from there, trying to juggle between slots 1 and 2. I could actually see this working particularly well with a Runaway. You have the Highwayman push back with point blank shot, and then you immediately have a Runaway Dragonfly, which is the 2 front targets get a dot and a small hit. On to the Jester. The Jester has Virtuoso. Play the hits, keep the crowd happy, which is increased max HP, increased speed, more susceptible to dots, and to allies on turn start, increase stress resist 15% of the time. So it took me a while to figure out how to read these ones. We'll see another one with the Man-at-Arms. But what this means is that 15% of the time, the Jester will make your allies essentially immune to stress, is I believe the way that works. I have yet to play a Virtuoso. But pretty interesting. I'm not sure how this works with max HP and max speed, but it seems like you might be radically decreasing the amount of stress that you have to deal with, although 15% of the time is not that much. Although it's 15% of the time 3 times per turn, I believe. And then you have Soloist, which is, this will be a cutting performance. Increased damage, increased bleed chance, and increased crit on those bleeds. But here's a glass cannon one, right? Lower speed and more HP. I did a run with Soloist, and what I can say is hits really hard. I was definitely impressed. But the minus 33% HP was something that I felt deep in my soul. The Leper, probably the most exciting paths that I've seen to date. I played a Poet run, but let's start with Tempest. That's the one on the left. So Tempest is your aggro build, and it is the Winter Storm knows only rage. Chop skill deals 50% extra damage, increased debuff resist, increased disease resist, and less HP and speed. The minus 33% max HP is rough, but if you're going for like a combo-enabled Leper where you're not trying to tank with them, like I could see going for a Man-at-Arms in rank 1, a Leper in rank 2 chopping the front lines, and then some backliners to maybe an Occultist to pull forward and mark, and then the Leper gets to chop things up. I think this could be pretty powerful. I did tinker around with the Tempest a little bit, and you have a very hard-hitting Leper with no mastery invested. Then, Poet, which I have played through, Petals Must Fall. Self-healing skills do 100% health given, 100% stun resist, and 100% move resist, minus 25% damage. You barely notice the missing damage, and the double healing is insane. I think I had over 100 point self-heal on my Poet Leper in the final fight of the run that I did with that. So both of these seem super interesting, super fun. The Leper is emerging as my favorite class, which I feel a little bad about, but very, very strong, so versatile. I usually play them as a tank, and a tank Leper with Poet is very strong. On to the Man-at-Arms Barristan. So we have Sergeant and Bulwark. Sergeant is listen up, you lot. Less damage, resistant to movement, and then Bolster gains unique abilities. I think this is the first time we've seen a skill having different effects. So now Bolster removes vulnerable and weak, and then 20% of the time, the Man-at-Arms will make their allies, some of them, not all, 50% resistant to all of the dots. It's interesting. I didn't find that last bottom bit, the 50% all resist, to be super impactful in the playthrough that I played. But the Man-at-Arms still played approximately the same way. I didn't really notice the minus 33% damage because the Man-at-Arms is not really a hard hitter. The improvements to Bolster were kind of middling. So I don't think Sergeant is like a must-take or particularly valuable. Bulwark, stand fast behind me, plus 33% hit point, riposte skill 100% damage, crush skill 100% damage, and more dot susceptible. I think this is your clear tank build. I think it's strong. I think this is going to be, Bulwark is going to be one of those ones that you build a comp around and you're very happy about it. One thing for my last playthrough that I think was just fun is I played Firestarter with riposte on a Sergeant Man-at-Arms. It was the wrong one. But you end up potentially applying a lot of fire damage, which I think is a very interesting way to play Runaway coupled with Man-at-Arms. The big aha moment, though, I didn't realize that Caltrops works with Firestarter. So Caltrops hits every enemy, and you get a proc of Firestarter along with it. Very interesting synergy there. Not specific to paths, though. On to the Occultist. I haven't had the pleasure of working with either of these, but the Warlock, those beyond the veil, hear my call and obey. So this is another glass cannon getting more glassy, minus 33% max HP, but range skill increased by 50%, and turn start 33% of the time you get an unchecked power. I think this is going to be really, really strong if you can build around it. The max HP loss, coupled with the fact that you're still going to be using Chaotic Offering, is going to make it a little hard to keep your Warlock Occultist up and operational, but I think it's very interesting. And then we have Ritualist. I have not seen this one myself, but looks absolutely fascinating. A curse upon my enemies and a curse upon myself. Sacrificial Stab does double damage. Healing skills heal an extra 33%. And then self, cursing skills give crit, dodge, and increased damage, but 25% of the time you gain vulnerable. I think this one is very interesting. It kind of lends itself to a healer slash debuffer, but probably living in slot 3 so that you can occasionally stab as well. Have to play with that one to really learn how to utilize it. The Plague Doctor. So we have Alchemist, a fascinating reaction, which is less HP, another glass cannon-y type of build, but increase blight chance, and then blights have 50% crit and a huge increase to resists. So your alchemist is not going to be getting controlled, getting stunned, bleeding, etc. And then we have Surgeon. Sutures or Sever both have their uses, which is increase max HP, increase melee damage, increase healing skill, and less blight. So this is your, I'm not going to say tank because that's too strong, but I think frontline Plague Doctor. So you're not blighting a lot. You're using Incision. You're using Battlefield Medicine. I think you can't use that from slot 2. So maybe this is a slot 3 Plague Doctor, and then you're using Incision a lot to tear down the front row. But definitely more durable, definitely healing for more. And then the Runaway finishes us off. We have Survivor, which I played with last night, and then we have Arsonist. So Survivor, patch up, stay sharp, keep moving. Healing skills plus 50% is huge. Cauterize gets very big. I think we were having like 30-point cauterizes. And then plus 50% healing over time given. That one's weird. I don't know when the Runaway is providing healing over time. Gotta figure that out. And then combat start plus 2 dodge and speed. The combat start plus 2 dodge and speed is very noticeable and made a huge difference because I was playing our Runaway frontline and it gave us time to set up and get the Man-at-Arms into taunt mode, basically. And then Arsonist, everything burns, plus 33% chance to light things on fire. Burn causing skills increase crit, minus 33% damage, and turn start light on fire 3. So I don't actually know how this one works, but the plus 33% burn chance and then the crit, I don't think is going to make up for the minus damage. I would have liked to have seen this one have more burn component to it, like maybe 10% more burn damage. So I'm not sure how good that's going to be. But that runs you through every path currently available in Darkest Dungeon. Really enjoying the patch. The time, if you see this right after it's released, I will probably be actively streaming another run of Darkest Dungeon. But for now, thank you for tuning in. If you like this kind of content, toss me a like, toss me a subscription. It helps me to know that I'm doing the right things. And daily, I have content coming out on the channel. But for now, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on a stream or in another video in the future. Bye-bye.